the podcast that finishes your workday in a very Red Raider way. This is the Tech Talk Podcast from Double T 97.3, presented by Cantex Roofing and Construction.
I'm Mike Hebert, owner of Cantex Roofing and Construction. Every day is game day, and we'll get it right when it comes to your roofing, construction, windows, and mirrors. Call Cantex Roofing and Construction today. Together, we are one serving you.
Happy Tuesday. It is Tech Talk here on Double T 97.3 and Double T 97.3.com. Clint Scott, Dr. Mike Gustafson, Brennan Riker here for 3 hours, and we got a fun show for you. Of course, you've been tuning in all day between here and 100.7 The Score. You've heard our coverage of Big 12 Media Days. That will continue with us over here. We will talk to Tahj Brooks at 3:15, so we will dive right in and get Tahj's thoughts on Big 12 Media Days and the season and all that good stuff. Planning on talking with head coach Joey McGuire later on in the program. We will give you a set time when we have that, but we're excited to bring you more Big 12 Media Day coverage here on Double T 97.3. We are live from the First United Bank studio. You can call us on the Visual Edge IT hotline, or you can hit us up on the Yates Flooring Center chat line. Thoughts, comments, questions, all of that welcome there. Let us know what stood out about Big 12 Media Days to you. Several coaches have gone through. In fact, we have Gundy on the stage right now, who is the last one today to go for today's coaches. You can also take us anywhere with the mobile app, brought to you by Happy State Bank. And if you want to watch us, we're streaming live on Fox 34 News now and on YouTube, or you can watch us in that app. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. On Twitter right now, of course, we have our Who Wore It Best competition on Double T 97.3's Twitter page, also shared over on The Score. Gus, how goes it?
It is going good. It's an exciting day. Hearing all the things from Big 12 Media Day. And by the way, that coverage brought to you by Hub City Body Shop, Wild West Harley Davidson. That, just, I mean, if you weren't sort of feeling the football itch and, getting excited about this thing already. And I think this spring's felt a little different just because we've had so many facility updates, which you wouldn't normally have that. It would mostly be conversation about players and teams and opponents and all that. But this year, it feels like every week we're getting an update on that facility, and it's just, I don't know, for me it's kind of created a little more anticipation, if that was even possible. But it's fun to see this stuff cranking up this week.
Obviously, day one today, day two tomorrow. You are just pouring through information. A lot of it coach speak. A lot of good nuggets, though, in between them. But starting off with Brett Yormark, has anything really stood out to you so far?
Well, I mean, a lot, and we actually have audio from him, and it'll be the kind of thing that we can probably work with across the next few days and maybe even weeks. But because that conversation from Yormark was really far-reaching, as you would want from a commissioner, almost State of the Union type thing. So he's not going to be boring in on one team or one specific aspect of it. Over the last week or so, we've had a number of new partnerships and interesting things. Just an hour or two ago, Microsoft, the Surface tablets that all the NFL teams, that's going to be something available to the Big 12 teams, and that's an official partnership. It's kind of endless. He even talked about some of the international stuff, that the early focus, instead of being basketball and football in Mexico and Mexico City, going to be baseball and soccer to get that started. Just as I'm saying, it's kind of these far-reaching conversations, but he's not backing down from any of the challenges presented to him in terms of not cowering away from Big Ten and SEC and all those things, nor would we expect him to.
You have the Big 12 Mexico that you talked about. That was something he talked about shifting. He did answer a couple questions on private equity, how you catch up with, the Big Ten and the SEC. But another thing that he snuck in there, I say snuck in there, it seemed like, I guess he made sure to say this, that the Big 12 is open for business. And when he said that last time, he absolutely meant it. And now you've got, in back-to-back years, 4 new faces to help solidify the league and help unify the Big 12 and make sure that it's on solid ground. which you've done that, but it makes you wonder. And he did say, open for business on the private equity part, the partnership part, and didn't at first specify hey, we're looking to add past 16, and did talk about they are happy with that number. And why wouldn't you be? Because it certainly helped save the conference. And the original 4 that you added helped do that. Then you bring over the Pac-12 hunt from last year that, ended in success. But can't help but think with all of the mysteries going on over with the ACC, is there something right over there? And that's what everyone just kind of perks up with when you hear open for business. Yeah, there's the partnerships and private equity and all that stuff. That would be, good source of money and things you're trying to help bolster the conference with. But for the most part, our minds jump to more conference realignment because that's just been a whirlwind of conversation the past 2 years.
Yeah, and I don't think there's any there would be no strategic advantage to close it off and say, no, we're not open for business here. Because the opportunity that may be in front of them, I think the ACC deadline, I think their sort of anniversary date, and we've seen the Big Ten had this a couple years ago with Texas and OU. These things usually trigger, not always, but they usually trigger in the summer. In other words, if it gets past, I think it's August 15th for the ACC, then it becomes a full extra year. If they're trying to be out by or be somewhere else by fall of 2025 or whatever that year is, that trigger date's going to be August 15th. So to totally close yourself off to that might then close yourself off to some pretty good candidates for addition once, if this FSU Clemson thing happens to the SEC, and then maybe perhaps North Carolina and somebody else to the Big Ten. Okay, now what? And there's going to be some opportunity there, especially in a conference that fancies itself as being, very basketball. I wouldn't say centric, but very,
best conference in America.
Well, so the Blue Devils could be sitting out there is the point, and so there's just no strategic advantage to him saying, hey, we're closed for business. Quite the opposite. He's letting everybody know, here's my number.
I just think because you don't have to go out and say hey, we're not. But you also you don't have to mention it unless you're making a point of it.
Sure.
And maybe that's reading into tea leaves that shouldn't be, but that was the biggest thing that stood out to me.
Call me.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Here's my number. Interviewing Tahj Brooks next here on Double T 97.3.
It's every Red Raiders' favorite podcast. This is the Tech Talk Podcast from Double T 97.3, presented by Cantex Roofing and Construction.
Welcome back to Tech Talk. You've got us on Double T 97.3 and Double T 97.3.com. Clint Scott with Dr. Mike Gustafson, Brennan Riker behind the glass, taking care of us. We're continuing on our coverage of Big 12 Media Days, brought to you by Hub City Body Shop and Wild West Harley Davidson. And we go to Allegiant Stadium now. They're live in Las Vegas, where we have Tahj Brooks on. We're very excited to talk to him. Tahj, first, thanks for joining us, and how's Vegas treating you?
Sure well. Thank you for having me. It's been a fun time being here.
TahjTime.com is up and running. Take us through the process of how that came to be, and just how excited are you to have that up and running?
Team in Texas Tech, and then they created like a Tahj Time link, and it really just shows my stats from our first game to our last game, and it's tracking how long I can till I break the Texas Tech rushing record, and how many yards each game and touchdowns and all sorts of stats that they track. And then I have like my NIL platforms like Instagram, Twitter, influencer, things like that, so people can reach out to me for NIL opportunities.
You mentioned, that rushing record that'll be on a countdown yardage-wise on that site. What would it mean to break Byron Hanspard's rushing record?
First and foremost, a blessing. that's just something I've been working hard for since last year and since I came back to school, and that's something I want to break and want to have my name at the top of the list. And then for second, it's just really just the work I've been putting in. With my family been seeing it, my coaches, Coach McGuire's been seeing it. Everybody's been seeing how much work I put in just to strive to break that record, and then of course always taking one game at a time.
Hey, Tahj, Mike Gustafson here. Hey, what can you tell us about the rest of the running back room?
Definitely, I feel like after me, it's straight. I want to say dogs in that room. Besides me, it's Cameron Valdez. He's a speedster, but he also comes with a lot of power. He also it takes a lot of people to tackle him. And then behind him, or kind of on the same pedestal as him, is Cameron Dickey. He's a freshman that came in the spring, enrolled early. He's kind of from back home. He's from the same area I'm kind of from, so we kind of know each other. And he's a person to deal with. I feel like he's kind of like my younger self when I was younger. He's like a freshman year of me, but in my opinion, he's way better than me my freshman year. And then we got another guy named Jacoby Williams, and he's going to be a speedster for sure. He's going to be a guy you can get in with routes. You can put him in a slot and do different things with him. You can put him on jet sweeps and things because he's super fast. So our room in there, I feel like our room is very developed in a way, but Barry has a lot of dogs and has a lot of guys, has a lot of playmakers.
So, you mentioned a couple of guys right there in the room with Cameron and Jacoby, but when you look at new faces, whether freshmen or, some of the guys you brought in through the transfer portal, who's really stood out to you as a player?
First and foremost, I want to say our offensive linemen that we brought in, Vinny, DC, Davion Carter, Sterling Porches, and then some of the two receivers we brought in, Caleb Douglas and Josh Kelly. Those guys are all playmakers, and they know how to play the game. They played a lot of football just like me, myself, and a lot of people on the team that's veterans. And then for the freshmen, I feel like that whole class came in really locked in and really trying to learn and convey our culture, trying to build in the culture, trying to listen to the older guys and just learn and then just ask questions when needed.
How have you seen the offensive line as a unit, progress in this offseason from last year?
Those guys have gotten a lot closer, especially like in spring ball. Last year, a lot of holes weren't really opening for me and the guys that's in our room. And then now this year, spring ball, we had probably one of the best spring ball running the ball. Like, it's been the average per carry, maybe, I want to say like 6-7 yards per carry in spring ball. No knock it to our defense, but those guys are moving the piles and pushing double teams to the linebackers and things. And it's been amazing seeing those guys work, especially shout out to Clay McGuire, the offensive line coach. He pushed them guys to another pedestal, and I can't wait to see what we do this fall.
Hey, Tahj, there's been so much conversation about Baron Morton's shoulder. What can you tell Red Raider Nation about what you're seeing from him this summer?
He's back to 100%. I seen him. We threw last Thursday, and he threw me a wheel route, and it felt like just like the game, like how we'll be in the game. And I feel like he's back to 100%. That injury is something he overcame, and he's still doing his rehab and stuff. He's on top of it and attacking it every day. And I feel like he's 100% right now. And he's throwing it. He's throwing in football schools and things like that. So he's going to be a different Baron Morton this season. I can't wait.
You're in year 3 as a player under Coach McGuire. Are there any differences you've seen from his approach from when he first got there to this offseason?
For sure. Not really a difference, but more just bringing guys along and bringing guys building into our culture, which is becoming a brand, which is the toughest, hardest working, most competitive team in the country. And you can say, like, every coach knows that. Every coach is like, okay. But this year, I feel like we're more player-led than anything. Like, our 5 captains that we brought with me, Jacob Rodriguez, Bryce Ramirez, Baron Morton, Caleb, and myself, we all kind of lead our team, like, as a player. Like, it's not really guys. Coach McGuire's not getting on guys. Like, we'd come talk to guys, be like, hey, you gotta fix this, or we gotta work with you on this, and just building guys up confidently within on and off the field issues and things like that. But I feel like this team's more player-led than anything, and then once being a player-led team can hopefully get you to that national championship.
Hey, are you guys excited about the south end zone and all the construction and all?
I can't. It's crazy because I was telling Baron our last interview, it's gonna be crazy our first game, especially it's a night game and our new end zone's being built, and then we get to move in there maybe towards the end of this month. Oh, it's gonna be filthy. And I can't wait to see how it looks.
How do you guys handle like chomping at the bit at this point, in the summer? Because it feels like you're so close to the season, yet you're so far. You talk about like the excitement of playing in the Jones and with the new end zone. Like, how do you handle that level of, I guess, readiness?
Really just staying steady, sticking to our plan within our strength coaches and things. And because our strength coaches, they kind of keep us humble. They tell us when we're not doing good. They tell us when you're kind of not good at this spot and just working on your weaknesses right now. So when the fall comes, we can turn those weaknesses into strengths. So I feel like really just keeping us humble, keeping the main thing, and just working, going in every day working, knowing like you can get passed up and knowing there's a lot of competition on this team. So,
hey, let's talk about three-stripe life. What are you seeing from Adidas?
Oh man, you seen the uniforms? I know y'all seen the uniforms.
Yeah,
It was nice. That was just a little taste, and the cleats are amazing. The shirts that we got today that we're wearing at Big 12 Media are made, and they feel good on mine. They feel good wearing them. I can't thank Adidas enough, man. It was just a blessing being. Not saying Under Armour wasn't what it was. I loved Armour. I love Under Armour. I love what the gear they gave us, but Adidas, they're giving us a lot more things and a lot more things for football players to be successful, and I love that.
Tahj, we really appreciate you spending some time with us. Have a great time the rest of Big 12 Media Days, and hey, man, good luck this season.
Yes, sir. Thank you all.
It was Tahj Brooks live from Allegiant Stadium here on Double T 97.3. We will talk to head coach Joey McGuire a little later on in the program. Again, when we get that set time, we will let you know, so make sure that you don't miss that. But, man, we haven't had a chance yet to dive into our thoughts on TahjTime.com. We'll do that a little bit more on the other side,
Sure.
But just at a quick glance, that is an awesome thing that I didn't know was happening. So it's kind of a nice thing to wake up to this morning.
Yeah, it's great to it's crank up that promotion machine, because that's part of the conversation around awards and all that sort of thing. Hopefully it's got some great stories to tell numerically to set him up for postseason honors and a season we never forget, and hopefully a player we never forget.
We'll reset the deck just a little bit on the other side. We'll get into TahjTime.com a little more. We'll also let you know what happened yesterday in the world of baseball. All that and more. Got a full show for you here on Tech Talk today. Keep it right here on Double T 97.3.
The podcast that finishes your workday in a very Red Raider way. This is the Tech Talk Podcast from Double T 97.3, presented by Cantex Roofing and Construction.
Hey, welcome back to Tech Talk here on Double T 97.3 and Double T 97.3.com. Thank you for joining us. It is Big 12 Media Days live over in Las Vegas. I lied. I forgot Matt Campbell was the last to go. A very tan Matt Campbell there on the stage. I didn't know the sun shined that much in the state of Iowa. Apparently does. Clint Scott, Dr. Mike Gustafson, Brennan Riker. Hit us up on the Yates Flooring Center chat line. Thoughts, comments, questions, all of that welcome there. Let me see on a schedule real quick. Sorry about that. We may have Coach McGuire on here in 15 minutes. We will let you know that for sure. As he's kind of a busy guy right now. He's got a lot going on over in Las Vegas. You had TahjTime.com announced today, and you heard it, from Tahj himself. But if you missed it, it is tracking the record. It's an NIL platform, how you can reach that. And then just following along with any possible and hopeful awards that he may get this year. We're all hoping it is that sort of season. What did you think of the website?
Yeah, it's cool. I was just looking at it. This is the first step, and it certainly doesn't take the place of anything that happens on the field, but because he's got to go do it. But this is getting the hype machine primed, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure.
And because in the old days, headed into a guy's senior year or a year in which they're getting some preseason accolades and watch lists and stuff, they're mailing out the cards and the media packets and all that. Well, it's the 2024 now, and so we do this through websites and such, and it'd be interesting to track again, we hope it's a great year and something that's unforgettable as a team and unforgettable for Tahj as a player. And chasing down a record, that's always fun.
You know, what I like about it first and foremost is this sort of opportunity does not roll around or, you know, come around very often. And so, you know, why not lean into it? And, you know, I've seen some ask. I was on with Bro this morning, and we were talking about this, and had a couple people ask, like, oh, well, when you've played as many games and you have more game opportunity, does it mean as much? Well, I guess it depends on you individually, because if you're not pro record breaking, that's fine. Or if it's well, you know, Hanspart had more or less opportunity, all of that goes with it. Sure, that's true. But do you not want to promote your guy? Like, do you not want to root for your guy and a guy who made the decision to come back and had to make a business decision? Do I want to come back for another season, or do I want to go try my have a chance at the NFL? And that was a legitimate chance over in the NFL, because he would have been invited at camp, and he's been on campus for a while. And that COVID year thing, that option that's still hanging around from last year with that decision, you know, some guys have decided that they've played a lot of football, and, you know, just because they move on, I guess it doesn't mean it's like, well, you know, the university didn't mean anything to me. But I think Texas Tech clearly means something to Tahj Brooks.
Absolutely.
Well, why not back that?
Yeah, absolutely. That's exactly right. And I mean, there was no drama with his decision either. I mean, this thing was settled headed into the bowl game. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure, you know, NIL and all that sort of thing helped with that. But, you know, I don't know why. I really can't think of a reason why someone would, you know, not really want to see a current player chase down a record like that. I mean, it's going to take about a 1,200-yard season for him to do it, so he's not going to back his way into 1,200.
Right.
Yeah, but Hanspart, you know, Byron left early too. So I mean, Tahj is hanging around. I mean, that's just the nature of records. I mean, and that cuts across all sports. And you know, he'll you know, where Tahj is here, this is really cool. I mean, he's set for something special. Just a little bit short of 1,200 yards will get it done, and hopefully he does it with a big double-digit total of touchdowns. And again, all of this kind of stuff is more fun if it's in the context of a really productive, good season, you know, a winning season, and something that we can all be talking about 20 years from now.
And something that I think is really impressive, at least just from the outside looking in, is that, you know, you have a buildup for this year now where you didn't have quite as much of a buildup going into last year, right? We knew he was taking over from splitting reps when it was him and SaRodorick Thompson, and it was going to be, instead of running back 1A, 1B, it's Tahj Brooks as your main back. And, you know, there's more pressure going into this year, I would think, because you have more of an expectation and you have more of the preseason accolades coming in and your first team Big 12 nods and stuff like that. Now the website. And, you know, you haven't played a game yet this season, but it feels like he's just got a very level head on his shoulders and is handling that pressure really well. Now, again, that is from the very outside point of view, but it's just something that I feel like I've noticed about him, is it has not affected him, and he's been very steady.
Yeah, and you hear Coach McGuire talk about him not being a selfish guy over the years. Mm-hmm. And you know, so much a conversation around last fall, and we just heard Baron Morton talk on our sister station on you know, 100.7 The Score, I don't know, about an hour ago. And, you know, he talked about how, you know, due to his injury and the things that he was dealing with last year, they had to lean on Tahj so much. And there was so much criticism about not leaning on him enough.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure. Well, it took you deep enough in the season, I felt like, to really realize what you were good at and where you were struggling. And some of that, too, was, you know, as you get some of the injuries that you had last year, and it almost forced your hand to do that. Yeah. And so sometimes you need that knock on the head to focus up. And you know that this year. Like, you know what you have in Tahj Brooks.
And hopefully what we also have is a more productive and cohesive and deeper offensive line that makes the whole thing tick. I mean, it'd be great to see this team uptick. I mean, because in the end, it's about points scored and the ability to control games.
Yeah.
If you need to go win 13-10 in Ames, you do that. And if you need to go sling it and beat somebody 52-49, you can do that too. And just to be able to dictate things. And last year, it felt like throughout much of it, we were not able to really impose our will as often as we would like to. And what that means is simply to say, yeah, I know it's a running down, but we're going to run it, and you get to figure out if we're going right and left, and we're going to shove it down your throat, or it's 3rd and 8, but watch this. And we were just, receiver room, whatever. The whole thing never came together last year at a really high level, and hopefully all of that does this year, and Tahj is a big part of it because that would sure be fun to watch.
We will come back right at 3:45. Gus, when we do, we will be talking with the head man himself, Joey McGuire, live from Allegiant Stadium. We will talk to him next right here on Double T 97.3.
The podcast put together with Red Raider fans in mind. This is the Tech Talk Podcast from Double T 97.3, presented by Cantex Roofing and Construction.
Welcome back to Tech Talk on Double T 97.3, doublet973.com. Clint Scott, Dr. Mike Gustafson, Brendan Riker behind the glass taking care of us. Our coverage for Big 12 Media Days brought to you by Hub City Body Shop and Wild West Harley Davidson. We go live to Vegas, where we have head coach Joey McGuire on. And, Coach, thank you for spending some time with us. And just wanted to bring this up first. Watching on TV, your presser there on the stage, in between some questions, and you get a grin on your face. Camera turns, and you have Caleb Rogers asking you a question. Has he provided your favorite question today?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me, guys. Man, I wish y'all were here. Y'all are missing out. Man, he probably did, because he asked about the players and my relationship with them, and that's what it's all about. I always tell our coaches the most important thing in our building is our players. Most important thing we do is practice, but the most important thing in our building is our players, and they got to feel that way. And, man, it was funny, the question he asked. I hope he does feel that way.
You got Caleb there, you got Barron, Tahj, Jacob Rodriguez, Bryce Ramirez, all there with you. What do those 5 guys mean to the 2024 season and to this roster?
They're such a key. I'm going on January started 30 years of coaching, and I've never had a group that on their own came to me and talked about accountability and how they could help and the role that they wanted on this team as far as leadership. And it's a game changer whenever you have players that are as frustrated as a coach about the year that you had the year before, and wanting to do something about it other than, just doing what they're asked to do, but doing more. And that's what they did. That's why I named them. I've never named captains in the off season, and with what they were doing and what they wanted to do, I thought it was a great time to really put them in a position of authority, and they've really stepped up, and that's why they're here today.
Coach Mike Gustafson here. This may be a question that's showing my age. Back in the day, in the late 80s, that old locker room down there on the southwest corner, there was an old bulletin board right there by the entrance of the locker room, and mainly back then it was used for messages. You need to go see Coach Ramsey. You need to go see this guy, whatever. But there was always the clippings, and I was just wondering, is this something, or am I showing my age? It's not something you do anymore. Do you circle 8th and 9th place preseason predictions and stick that on a bulletin board, or is that am I going too old school there?
No, man, you just do it a little bit different. You just cut and paste it and send it in your group message on your phone.
There it is.
Now they get to see it. No, I did, man. I'm right there with you. I mean, I understand it, and I think sometimes when you're doing it, and it's July, and people forget who we added in January We added one of the most explosive receivers in the country whenever it comes to Josh Kelly. He had 61 catches, 923 yards, and eight touchdowns. You had a guy that played for Florida as a freshman, and Caleb Douglas. You added two tight ends along with Mason Tharp that all have NFL draft grades. But all that stuff happened, in the winter. We weren't really active in the portal whenever it came spring, and so we're kind of the forgotten guy. But that's great, man. I mean, last year I was pretty bold in my predictions. I'm still right there. I've just a couple people have asked me. My wife is one of them, and Kenny Perry's the other one. Is not to be so bold, but I want to make sure that these players understand how much I believe in them, and that I truly believe that we should be playing in meaningful games in November, and that we should be in Dallas, Texas in December, playing in the big game. And the media, they didn't think in probably 2019 Baylor was going to play in the Big 12 championship. We got beaten overtime, and probably didn't think Baylor and OSU was going to play in 2021. It's all right. It just gives us a chance to prove some people wrong.
Speaking of the Big 12, Coach, it feels like it's as balanced and competitive as it's ever been. What do you think of the conference this year?
Man, it's so tough. And one reason is because you have so many great coaches that know how to prepare a team to play at a high level. When you sit there and you're like, well, how many coaches do you have that have won a national title and won conference and stuff like that? Well, it just depends on what level you're talking about. And you've got a lot of veteran coaches that have won a lot of football games. And so that's number one. And then the conference has changed. I mean, I think I looked at a couple different deals on social media is there a deeper conference in the country at running back than the Big 12, And
Yeah.
I feel like we have the best in the country, but you have some great running backs. And then I saw another deal: is there a deeper conference in the country at wide receiver? And so I think this is just such a tough conference, and you've got to be prepared to play every single week. I think we're in a good position that we got 5 out of our first 7 games at home. Our fans have a great opportunity to see the new additions in the stadium. That's worth the price of admission right there, but they have a chance to really affect the game and help us get off to a really fast start.
Coach, I asked Tahj this question earlier, and I'll ask it to you. So much conversation about Barron's shoulder. What can you tell Red Raider Nation about what you're seeing from him, and then a bunch of the other guys that were due for July 1 medical releases? How's everybody's health?
Yeah, really good. So saw Barron throw yesterday. He got his throwing in because we have football school on Tuesday and Thursday, but since we were here, he wasn't able to do it. So he threw yesterday. He looked great. He feels really good. It's been pretty awesome to see the transformation of his body, especially his upper body. He's always serious, but I think this injury forced him to really look at how he's preparing his upper body for the season. And then Jalen Conner is fully released. He actually is in Nashville. The next couple of days he's working with Kittle. Kittle does a tight end camp, and so Jalen was invited for that. So he's working with him. He's fully released. And then yesterday, before I left, Micah got half of the volume of everything when it comes to workouts and running. So meaning that he's fully released to do anything. We just are still protecting him on the amount of stuff that he's doing. But as far as any cuts, any running, anything like that, he was able to do it all yesterday in the weight room and doing all the running. So feel really good where he's at. 6 months is, I think, next week. And, whenever you get to that mark and you're doing what he's doing, then, you feel really good about where he's going to be when we start camp and where he's going to be on August 31st.
Coach, we have about a minute and a half left with you. You talked about Barron. Tell me about Cam Brown and his expectation for how you plan to use him this year.
Yeah, man, I love Cam. What I love about Cam is just his personality. He's an easy guy to get behind, and that is always important when you're talking about that quarterback room, that it's somebody that you really want to play for, and he's one of those guys. But the thing that he also brings to the table is yesterday he weighed 237 pounds. He's built a lot like Tahj, except he's taller. He's got a really strong lower body. And, I had a really special quarterback in 2006, won a state championship, went 16-0 with him. And we used to call plays hoping everybody was covered. It was almost like 1, 2, 3 is me. And he's got some of that. That's what I love about him. He understands that he can attack the game. He can attack the field with his feet. He knows that's a strength. So instead of just sitting there wanting to throw the ball and patting the ball, he's going to take off. We're going to use him in the quarterback run game, but he's a guy that can really, if you cover down and you don't, really stay in your rush lanes and you give him a chance to take off, he's a guy that's going to take off on you.
Coach, really appreciate your time. Good luck this season and have a great time for the rest of Big 12 Media Days.
Yes, sir. Thank y'all very much for having me.
You bet.
That was head coach Joey McGuire. More Tech Talk next.
The podcast that finishes your workday in a very Red Raider way. This is the Tech Talk Podcast from Double T 97.3, presented by Cantex Roofing and Construction.
Brendan's ready to go for the 5 o'clock hour. He just punched the glass to let us know.
Gamer.
You all right back there?
I mean, listening to all this, all the talk from the Big 12 Media Days, I'm ready to run through a wall.
With
maybe
your hands.
a glass wall. But
Ready to go. Yeah, I like that.
Almost Colton Brewered yourself back there. Non-throwing hand. Just make sure it's your non-throwing
yes,
hand.
I'm a southpaw, not a righty.
That's where it starts. I don't recommend it even with a non-throwing hand, but you gotta. A lot of big league clubs will set up some of them will set up a punching bag, like a boxing bag. You can get a bat and go beat on that instead of tearing up stuff. But most importantly, take care of the hands. That's that dude's going to be used as a symbol of how not to react to a crappy outing for years to come.
Clint Scott, Dr. Mike Gustafson, crafty lefty Brendan Riker behind the glass taking care of us. We are live from the First United Bank studio. One more hour with us as we'll go all the way up to 6 o'clock. And this hour will give you the juice in 15 minutes. We will re-air our interview with head coach Joey McGuire. So those that weren't able to hear it earlier can hear it at 5:30, or if you just want to listen to it a second time and re-dissect. 5:45, we will do Ask Tech Talk. Get us your questions on the Yates Flooring Center chat line for that. Take us anywhere with the mobile app, brought to you by Happy State Bank, and we are streaming live on Fox 34 News Now and on YouTube. All right, Gus. Yesterday, you got Kelly Ford's watchability one from a game standpoint and then broke it down to a team standpoint. And with his watchability scores, it was interesting. There was very, very, very mad Big 12 fans because in the top 40, there wasn't a single Big 12 game. And what made it interesting is he clarified what he called watchability had nothing to do with actual TV ratings. And so it wasn't like TV numbers or eyeballs that are brought in. And why Big 12 media was extra mad, it wasn't because Big 12 didn't have a game in that top 40 that he released, but when he did the actual teams, like team by team watchability, there was a bunch of Big 12 in there and a lot in the top 10. You had Oklahoma State at number 3, West Virginia number 4, Colorado at number 5, Kansas State number 10, Iowa State 11, TCU 14. Okay. And then Texas Tech was 29, right behind Kansas at 28, Utah 26, UCF at 23. So it goes into the offseason stuff that we just get mad about that doesn't matter.
Right.
And the Big 12, when you're in an angry universe that just everybody likes to eat each other like a bunch of rabid dogs, I think you can say that the Big 12 could be the most fun conference to pay attention to. And what's the reason? Okay, yeah, well, are they the SEC or are they the top of the Big 10? No, I don't know if there's a true championship contender in the Big 12, but you do have a bunch of really good teams that could stack up with a lot of the Big 10 and a lot of the SEC. And so you can say that without going like, whoever wins the Big 12 wants Georgia and they want them now.
Right.
But that's not what we do. That's not what we do as fans. We got to poke and prod and rip everything apart. But I did think that this was interesting for whatever metrics he was going off of with watchability, which to me sounds like, hey, who do you have the most fun watching? And you do have that many Big 12 teams isolated in a team-by-team basis, but yet none of those matches were in the top 40.
None of the matchups.
Yeah.
Yeah. That is kind of interesting.
And there's also a word called baiting, and it works.
Yeah, sure. Create a lot of hits, a lot of ticks, a lot of sure.
This on the chat line, you mean a lot of mediocre teams? No, I mean there's a lot of good teams in the Big 12.
Yeah, good, not great.
Is there a great team? I don't know. I guess we'll find out. And I don't know. How much do you hope that you get from the Big 12 in there? I mean, if just from a Big 12 standpoint, obviously
yes.
if it involves you want to be one or two. It doesn't matter if you
Right.
get in. But just from like your Rob Lowe Big 12 hat, like I guess I do, but if it means like what if TCU is the second one? Like let's say Utah wins the Big 12 championship game and it was like a TCU. I don't know if I really want that, right?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm sure the bar's going to be higher for the second Big 12 team than it will be a third or fourth SEC team. You know, this will be an interesting thing to watch as it plays out, to know if a 10-2 Big 12 team is going to get in before a 9-3 SEC, and you know who played who and what that's going to look like to get to that. I think that's the desire of you know, the expanding this playoff field is getting deeper into it and getting past those fifth place snubs like a Georgia team last year that gets beat in a conference championship. Now they did get beat by an eventual team that lost in the semifinal, and so maybe they were a little bit less than what they've been in the past. But yeah, just getting some new brands in there probably can't be the worst. Getting some new brands into the actual college football playoff can't be a bad thing for the sport.
They are mediocre because the projected winner isn't from the original teams. One, doesn't matter. Two, that's a Utah team that took it to the Pac-12 in back-to-back years. That Pac-12 conference that has quite a few teams represented over in the almighty Big Ten now. So I don't think that has anything to do if you're a good conference or not, just because they weren't of the original one. I mean, there's no shame if Utah comes in and wins the conference, right?
Yeah, they won't be coming out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And then, the separation between them and K-State in the preseason poll is
one
minuscule.
vote.
Yeah. And they are an original team. So, but yeah, I got
whatever
you.
that means.
I don't know.
I am excited for it to get here. I think there's been this shadow over it where we've had the gap of money between the Big Ten and the SEC, and I get that that's an important thing, and you've had to fight for your life as a conference to stay alive for 2 years. I get it, but sometimes I feel like that casts a very large, dark shadow over what I think is going to be a very fun next couple of years in the Big 12. It's Tech Talk on Double T 97.3.
This has been the Tech Talk Podcast, presented by Cantex Roofing and Construction. Check out our library of Double T 97.3 podcasts at doublet97.3.com.